I think it's time to reply to some comments. And one person said there is no such thing as a good implementation of Brexit. I may be inclined to agree with you, but there is such a thing as a bad implementation of Brexit. And this is what we are looking at now, a bad implementation of Brexit. That doesn't, to identify that, doesn't mean that I am endorsing a good implementation of Brexit. That may not be possible. But it is a different thing to whether or not somebody approves or disapproves of Brexit itself, whether one is a Remoaner or whether one is a Leaver. I personally think that one should embrace decisions and one should deal with what one has available. Days says something very interesting. So you agree with Mr. Farage about Brexit? Do you not think that Cameron and Osborne's austerity was bad for Britain, that the government corruption during COVID was horrendous, 14 years of Conservative misrule? I don't, actually. I agree with Mr. Farage on many things, because I think Mr. Farage has a remarkable way of pinpointing reality. Doesn't mean I support Farage. It simply means his observations and mine often coincide, and he is extraordinarily articulate, particularly when it comes to Brexit. Farage and I would absolutely agree that the Brexit which was implemented was wrong. We would disagree hugely, I think, about what sort of Brexit should be implemented. I would probably go for something which was not Brexit at all. But I think a decision to do something fast was essential, and to pull it out was to fail both Britain and Europe. And that, of course, is exactly what Mrs. May did. Also, I think she delegated the negotiations to the wrong people, as indeed did David Cameron. If Cameron had taken personal oversight of the negotiations with Europe, maybe Europe would have produced a better solution, which would have been more attractive to the electorate at the referendum. Cockwomble says that Rishi Sunak is a fearmonger of the year and awards a reward to him. Yeah, well, you should note that Rishi Sunak's speech starts with defence, as indeed does Mr. Putin's. So there's something clearly in the air there. Bob Somiadis says the Labour Party doesn't really need her. That's Natalie elphicke, I think. She can be a very divisive figure. Maybe she would change her ideology. Not particularly. I don't think. I think you're giving her airs and graces that she doesn't deserve. She is an incidental and insignificant figure who has made herself significant simply by walking across the House, simply by moving 6 yards at the very most. She has given herself importance. The only other importance she got was from her husband's dalliance and criminal behaviour. So I don't give Natalie elphicke at all as much credence as you do. And if she had that level of credibility, then she would have been given ministerial office. So I'm afraid all of this exposes the failure of Natalie elphicke. Thomas Moore says, I'm sorry, but the opening line on Chris Bryant spoke of him being linked to a scandal involving underwear, and then we learnt no more as the subject swiftly moved to his fight with cancer. I know nothing about the scandal. It was a photograph, if that was what it was, but I do have an interest in cancer. Was it really necessary to introduce the first item, which seemed completely out of context with the other? Chris Bryant has had an extraordinarily interesting parliamentary career, which has been dogged with engagements and scandals and fights with various individuals, including with Lindsay Hoyle, the current Speaker of the House of Commons, with whom he was not prepared to back down, and I admire that. And the reason I mentioned the underpants was simply because of Chris Bryant's remarkable resilience in the face of scandals that would bring other politicians down and situations that would bring other politicians down. And Chris Bryant is quite clearly a survivor, and I hope he survives his current bout of ill health.